Jain friends, today in this lecture we will discuss the topic cascading style sheet. So these are the outlines of today's lecture. What is CSS? CSS syntax, 3 ways to use CSS, benefits of external CSS, and setting multiple properties and how browser will process these CSS. So these are the outlines. In today's lecture, we will discuss all these topics. So what is CSS? CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets that determines how the elements of our HTML documents will be displayed and formatted. By using CSS, we can separate the content of web page from the presentation of the content, and CSS enables us to make all the pages of our website looks similar and consistent. So CSS makes our website consistent and it decides look and feel of our HTML document. Now this is the syntax of CSS, where we will write first selector, then curly braces, then property that we want to apply on our HTML document, then colon, then its value, then semicolon, then curly braces close. So in this way we can apply CSS on our HTML elements, or you can say on our HTML text. For example, I have a tag paragraph, that is P, and I want to change the color of that paragraph as a red color. So I will write CSS like this: P is my selector, then curly braces, then property that I want to change is color, then colon, then value that I want to apply, that is red, then semicolon, then curly braces close. So this one is property, this one is value, and this one is selector. Now many students do the mistake, that is they didn't place the semicolon at last. So semicolon is must to write at the end of value. So semicolon must be placed after each CSS declaration. Omitting this semicolon in a single most common mistake done by the students or who is learning the CSS. So we should keep in mind that at the end we will place semicolon. Now, how we can apply CSS? We can apply CSS in 3 ways. One is inline CSS, second one is internal CSS, and third one is external CSS. CSS code is placed directly into an HTML element within the body section of a web page. If we are applying CSS directly to an HTML element inside the body tag, then that type of CSS is called as a inline CSS. Now second type of CSS is internal CSS, internal style sheet, where CSS code is placed into a separate dedicated area within the head section. So if we are applying CSS rule inside the head section with a dedicated area, then that type of CSS is called as a internal CSS, or you can say internal style sheet. Now when CSS code is placed into a separate computer file and that file is linked to the web page, then that type of CSS is called as a external CSS, or this CSS is saved with .css extension. So inline CSS, we place the CSS rule inside the HTML element, and internal CSS will be applied in head section, and external CSS file will be stored with .css extension, and that CSS file will be linked to the HTML page where we want to apply the CSS rule. Now let's see an example of inline CSS. To define an inline CSS, we just write the style attribute to an XHTML element with the CSS declaration as the attribute value. Now if I want to change the color of this heading element as a red, so I will write inline CSS with style equals to, then double quotes में you need to write in double quotes color colon value of that property semicolon and then double quotes close. So in this way we can apply inline CSS, and whatever you are writing inside this heading tag will be colored as a red. Now there is again another heading, same heading tag, but we are not applying any CSS, so it will be displayed as it is, right? So in this way we can apply inline CSS. Inline style declaration is highly specific and formats just one element only. So if we want to apply whole elements on whole elements like H2 here and this one H2 also, so I will not use inline CSS. For that purpose I need to use internal CSS. Now let's see what is internal CSS. To use an internal CSS style, we need to add style section inside our head tag of the HTML document. All our CSS declaration will go within this section. For example, is the head tag and I'm writing internal CSS, so I will use element style type equals to text oblique CSS, and I want to change both the headings color as a red color, so I will write the style root h2 curly braces open color colon, the value is red, then semicolon and the curly braces close. So both the headings will get changed with the color red. So you can see this one is the output of internal CSS. In the previous example, we have seen that the only heading color where we apply the CSS rule get changed and second one doesn't get changed. So there's the benefit of internal CSS that we can change all the elements of HTML page with a single style rule that is placed inside the head tag. So this is the advantage of internal CSS. So styles declared in the internal sheets affect all the matching elements. For example, you can see that H2 is a matching element here and here. So the rules that we will apply will get reflect all the H2 on all the H2 tags, and color of the headings will be displayed as a red color. Since the matching format are entirely with the head section, it away from the actual page content, and internal CSS style doesn't much better job than inline CSS at separating content from the presentation. So the drawback of internal CSS as well. Now, third type of CSS is external CSS, or you can say external style sheet. To use an external style sheet, we need to create a new file, or new file we will write inside the notepad, and we will save that file with .css extension. And we will write all the style declaration into this file, and we will add this file inside our HTML documents where we want to change or we want to apply the CSS rules with the link element. With the link element, we will add that external file that is saved with CSS extension inside our HTML document, and this will place inside the header tag, right? So, for example, I'm making a style sheet named as style.css. That is a separate file, and inside this file I am writing a single rule, that is h2 properties color and value is red. Now I want to apply this rule, this CSS rule, with this example.html file. So I will give a link to this external file inside this xml.html file. How? Inside header tag I will write link, relation equals to style sheet, type equals to text oblique CSS, and hyperreference is the name of the file, style.css. Now, if both the files xml.html and style.css, both the files are placed at the same location, we will write style.css only. If there is a different location, then we will give the complete path of this style sheet. Now, for both h2 will get changed with the color red. Now, the advantage of this external CSS, external style file, is that if want to change different HTML page as well, then we can apply we can apply all the CSS rules that is written inside this style.css. We will just add this code inside the other HTML file. So other HTML files will get changed accordingly, the rules that are written inside this CSS file. So this is the benefit of external CSS. And the link element instructs the browser to load the external file specified by the hyperreference attribute and apply the CSS style declaration contained there. So in this way, this external CSS works. Now, what is the benefit? As I told you that we can apply the same CSS file with multiple pages, like page 1.html here, page 2.html here, page 3.html here, and in all the pages different h2 headings are placed. Then all the h2 headings will get colored with the red color, and I just need to write single file. I don't need to write CSS file inside this, CSS rule inside this, CSS rule inside this. Just I will write just a single file, and I will it will automatically reflected all the CSS rule inside all the HTML files, right? So style declared an external CSS, or you can say external style sheet, will affect all the matching elements on all the web pages that are linked to the style sheet. And by editing the external style sheet, we can make a site-wide changes instantly. For example, I want to change the color yellow. So yellow color will get changed in all the pages. So the consistency will remain same, and rules will be reflected on all the pages, right? So the main benefit of using the external CSS. Otherwise, we can, for a single page, we can use internal CSS. Now let's see the comparison of this internal as well as external style sheet. Internal style sheet for very small site is useful, especially for those who have just a single page. So the websites that have a single page, we can prefer internal style sheet, and might also make sense when each page of a site needs to have a complete different look. So if every page wants a different look, then we can also prefer this internal style sheet. But if we want to make a consistency, we will go for external style sheet. So external style sheet are better for multi-pages websites that have a uniform look and feel to all the pages, as we have seen the example in the previous slide. So all the pages have the consistency with this CSS rule. And if we want to make faster loading sites, then we also prefer this external style sheet. So the main benefit of external sheet, we want a consistency in our pages, and we want to make a faster loading sites. Then we will go for external style sheet, right? So external style sheet creates the furthest separation between the content and the presentation, and for this reason and the other listed above, we will consider the external style sheet as the best option rather than internal style sheet. So the main difference between internal and external you can write. Now, setting multiple property, how we can apply multiple properties inside our internal CSS or external CSS. For that we can write like this. For example, if I want to apply multiple property like color, font style, text alignment, so I can write like this: P is the element, curly braces, property, colon, value, then semicolon. Second property is font style, then colon, the value, it is italic, semicolon. Then third property is text align, colon, center, semicolon, then curly braces, close. So not a single property, we can apply multiple property as well inside the HTML elements, whether it is in inline CSS, whether it is internal CSS, whether it is external CSS. So external CSS as well, we can write style rule like this. So all the text with paragraph element will get red in color, italic in font style, and centered with text align. So just as with HTML browser, ignore the space characters inside the CSS code, many designers take the advantage of this fact by placing the opening and closing curly braces without their own dedicated lines. So this is the benefit of writing the CSS rule, and each of the property and value pairing are placed on their own intended line with the space after the colon. This makes the code easier to read and This makes code easy to understand. So in this way, we can set the different properties and values with the HTML element, or different kinds of CSS, internal, whether it is internal, inline, or external CSS. Now let's see the text properties and possible values that we can apply on heading, paragraph, ordered list, unordered list, or an anchor tag. So text alignment, the possible value can be center, left, right, justify. Text decoration, possible value can be underline, line through, blank. Color values that is possible: blue, green, yellow, red, white. And font family, we can apply Arial, Verdana, Times New Roman. And font size that we can apply with the values larger, 120%, 20 pixels, and other that you want to apply. Font weight can be bold, normal, and font style can be italic, normal. So these are the text properties we can apply on internal, inline, or external CSS. But this is not the sufficient possible values. Other values we can read for different properties. Like this is a text property, there may be some font property, there may be some border properties, and there may be different values for that. The actual list of available properties and values are quite long, but we just list out limited values and limited properties. Now, the next topic is how browser process CSS. A web browser will process all the CSS code that it will encounter, even it is from all the three type of method, whether it is inline, internal, or external CSS. For example, an external sheet could define the font of a heading, and internal CSS could specify the font size, and inline CSS could specify the italicize the heading. All the three will be applied by the browser. Sometimes a browser will receive conflicting between the instruction from CSS code. Sometimes may have same or different code that is written inside inline, internal, or external CSS. Then different CSS rules will be applied like this. Inline CSS will have the highest property, internal CSS will have the second property priority, and external CSS will get third priority. If there are different rules, or there is some conflict between the style rules inside inline, internal, and external, at that time internal will get highest priority, inline will get highest priority, internal will get second priority, and external will get the third priority if there are some conflicts between the properties of style. So for each HTML element, the browser will see the styles and define inline and from the internal and external sheets, and for any conflict detected, it will use or it will give the highest priority as per these three. The pure example, the heading text would display the color specified with the inline, which outranks all the others. You can see in this example. If we are writing heading tag with color red, and we are writing external style sheet with red color, internal style sheet yellow color, or inline CSS with different color, then inline will get highest priority. And if multiple conflict styles are determined at the same style sheet, with the final one will be applied. If we are writing the different rules inside a same file, then last one will get higher priority and that will be applied to the HTML document. But we should take care all the CSS rules that we are writing inside the inline, internal or external sheets, and then only the browser will process this. Thank you all. Thanks.